Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. Now normally I start off every lesson, every week, with me playing through a song right at the beginning, and then we jump into learning the song and then the theory behind the song. But this week's lesson isn't around a specific little song, but it's more about theory and an understanding of how chords are played up the neck of the guitar. Chord voicings, chord inversions. And so I'm going to break all of that down. I think this will be a big takeaway for a lot of you because I'm going to make it very simple, and we're going to have 3 different chord shapes that will really unlock the whole thing. So a lot of you may have jumped into caged, the whole cage system, and some of that, and that's good stuff to know, but it can be overwhelming. So what we've got here are these are going to be triads, just 3 notes at a time, and we're going to learn them up the neck. Now I've got this lesson split into 3 levels. So level 1 is going to be pretty basic. We're going to learn an A chord shape in 3 different positions. And once you start to understand that, as basic as that is, this is all going to start to make sense. Because level 2 is going to be taking those same 3 shapes that I just played, but playing a 1-4-5 chord progression up the neck of the guitar. Okay, and then level 3, which we're going to look at now, will be kind of like a song, but we're going to be embellishing around those chord shapes. So basically I'm going to take each of those shapes and show you some little fill licks that you can play as you're playing them, so that when you're improvising, playing lead, you'll have this in your stock and be able to use them. So let's take a look at that. So I went ahead and split this lesson into 2 parts. In this video, we're going to take a look at those 3 chord shapes and how to play the 1-4-5 chord progression. If you'd like to watch the video on embellishments, the thing that I just played where we embellish around the different chord shapes, I've got that as a part 2 video. I've also got the tablature and the MP3 jam track so that you can practice playing all of this along with a band. I've also got, as a bonus, I've got the jam track in an additional key. So I've got it in the key of C. And you'll surprise yourself because at the end of this, you're going to be able to transpose everything and play it in the key of C on your own without my help. So that'll be your bonus. That's your homework. So if you'd like to check out the rest of the lesson, go to ActiveMelody.com, go to the lessons page, and do a search for EP199. So let's go ahead and get started with part 1. All right, so we're going to start with an A chord down in first position. I'm barring the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret. And I'm only playing strings 4, 3, and 2. We're only going to play strings 4, 3, and 2 for all of these chords. Everything we're going to learn, just those 3 strings, 4, 3, and 2. That's going to make this easier. Okay, so I'm going to label each of these shapes that we go through so that we can refer back to them. They're just arbitrary numbers, but I'm going to call this shape 1. Okay, now we're going to go up to shape 2. So that's an A chord. Now we're going to come up to this position for shape 2. Now let me explain where I'm at. If you played an A bar chord, an A major bar chord, this is using the E chord shape. These 3 fingers make the E chord, right? But you just played strings 4, 3, and 2. That's what you would get. So that's why I'm making it this way instead of the full bar. Now the other reason I would use this shape instead of the bar is I have more flexibility to move my fingers around. So as I'm playing that chord and strumming it or playing a lead, I can start to move fingers around. It gets harder when you're barring everything. And plus, you don't need it. You just need that little chunk out of it. So you got shape 1, shape 2. Now we're going to come up to this position, which will be shape 3. Let me show you how to get there. If you look at your ring finger where that is here, you're going to skip this fret and you're going to come up to this fret and bar it. But first 4 strings, but then you're going to put down your middle finger on the 10th, so this is the 9th fret, 10th fret 2nd string, your middle finger, and then your ring finger goes down 11th fret 4th string, and you're going to play strings 4, 3, and 2 again. That's another A in that position. So now you've got shape 1, shape 2, and shape 3. Now the other way to think, there's different ways you can think about this. One is, there's that little D chord shape that's up here. So if you're just playing on the top 3 strings, you've got that triad. So this is kind of that using that same little triad, but you've just added another note. You've added your ring finger there on the 11th fret 4th string. So however you want to think of that. But that's what I'm doing just to make it easy. Just 4, 3, and 2, those string numbers. Okay, now what you're going to want to practice at this point is switching between those shapes. So set a metronome and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it starts to sink in. Then go back down. This will start to make sense as you get into it. So you got shape 1, shape 2, and shape 3. Now, the other thing is these shapes continue. So they loop. So you have 1, 2 is always after 1. 3 is always after 2. Now what's after 3? Well, it goes back to 1. So you're going to go up 3 frets from where your ring finger is. And then we're back to shape 1 again. Because everything after the 12th fret here is just a repeat of what we do down here, right? It's just an octave higher. So now we've got shape 1, shape 2, and you start running out of frets. Now for those of you on acoustic guitars that are trying to follow along, a lot of times you won't have this cutaway, so you're not going to be able to hit some of these higher notes. No problem. You can still follow along. You're just going to have to drop it down an octave for some of this stuff as we get into it. So if you're running out of space here, just play it down here. Now another thing to point out is that you don't always have to start with shape 1. I just arbitrarily came up with that so that I can call these out. So if we were doing something in the key of D, for example, you wouldn't have to necessarily start it this high on the neck. That would be shape 1 using what I just showed you. So that'd be shape 1 for D. Here would be shape 2. And here would be shape 3 all the way up here. So you could start with shape 3. That would make sense, which would be right here. There's that shape 3, exactly what I showed you for A. So there would be shape 3, then we go to shape 1, and then shape 2. They're out of order, but it's the same inversion. It's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It loops. It doesn't matter where you jump in. It follows that same sequence. So now we're going to follow a 1, 4, 5 chord progression using what we've just learned. We're going to start with using just shape 1. Just this shape here. So if that's the 1 chord, that's an A chord, where would the 4 chord be? Well, that would be your D chord, right? Well, how would you do that? Well, you'd come up to here. There's your 4 chord, and then where's your 5 chord? You're going to go up 2 more. There's your 5 chord. Using that shape. Very easy way to make a 1, 4, 5. Now the thing I don't like is I'm jumping all over the neck, and that means there's room for error. I might miss one of those, especially if I'm playing in a band. Alright, so the name of the game here is to be efficient. So this is not efficient. So let's look at this A chord and look at what D chord is nearby, our nearest neighbor. And that would be shape 3. Remember I just showed you, you could start with shape 3. Well, there's your D chord right there. It's very convenient. Obviously, you know this D chord. It's just using, it's playing that same chord but adding this note to it. But so that means I've got my A chord here, and then if I take these 2 fingers, my middle finger and ring finger, and put them down, while keeping the bar, I've got my D chord. I've got my 1 chord and 4 chord. Look at how convenient that is. That's the Keith Richards thing. To go from the 1 to the 4 that easily. And you can do it anywhere on the neck. So you have your 1, your 4. Now your 5 is always, you just take whatever your 4 is and just slide it up 2 frets. So there's the E chord using shape 3. So it's convenient. Now obviously I could play an E chord down here as well, but I'm trying to work my way up the neck to demonstrate this. So that's why we're moving this way. So there's your 5 chord, your E chord. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to go back to the 1 chord. So I look at what's closest, what's my nearest neighbor to this. Well, I remember that shape 2 for that A chord was right here. Look how convenient that was. All I had to do was move my ring finger up 1 fret, and then I put the other 2 fingers down, and it falls right into place. So there's my A chord again. So now you're going to practice going 1, 4, 5, 1. Now where's the next 4? If you remember, if I bar here, there's my 4, there's my D chord, and then to get to the 5, you just slide it up 2 frets. There's my 5. So now I've got a 1, 4, 5 in that position. So you got 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 5. Now, where's my nearest neighbor to this? So you just keep playing this game. And it's actually kind of fun. You kind of work it out. You can problem solve this on your own. Without even knowing the note names, you can start to see how these shapes connect. Now from here, what I do is I go back to that Keith Richards thing. And that would be my 1. So shape 3 at this point is where I'm starting this. My 1 chord. So then where's then where's the 4 chord? From here, the nearest neighbor. Look at this. It's right there. So I've got this chord. I'm going to take my ring finger, slide it up 1, and make that chord shape. And then I'm going to slide that up 2 frets again. And that becomes my 5 chord. So now I've got 1, 4, 5. Now if you're on an acoustic guitar and you don't have room to do this, you could go and then drop down and then reset it from there. Just like that. So you can always reset it if you run out of space. Just go right back down to your lower octave. So that is a 1-4-5 chord progression up the neck. Now, way you want to practice this to really let this sink in, set a metronome. Unless you're a premium member and you have that jam track, this is where you can play along with that rhythm, which goes like this. Just like this. You're not doing any embellishments. We're just doing downstrokes. We're playing strings 4, 3, and 2, and we're going. You can follow along with the tab if you need to, where I've got all that tabbed out. But that's the strum pattern for it, and that's how you want to practice that. Once you understand that, then I want you to go to the next video, which is the embellishments. Now we're going to learn little embellishments around each of those chord shapes so that you can start working in some lead fill licks in between. And that's where your playing really starts to escalate. You start going from, a first position player, a strummer, just a basic strummer, to an actual, guitar, rhythm lead guitar player. All right, so I'll see you in part 2 for the embellishments.